Hey guys, what's going on? It's Ash here coming at you today in Clash Royale with my new favorite deck. So I try not to overuse that title, that phrase. In fact, I try to only do it maybe once a month, once per balance update. I try to share a deck that I'm having a lot of success with that I really personally love. And I shared a really fun Elite Barbarian cycle deck yesterday, but I admitted that it's probably not going to end up being the fastest deck in the world. It's more of a really fun, speedy deck that you can kind of practice with and get the hang of how to play the Elite Barbarians effectively and how to combo them. This deck, ironically, is not too much more expensive. That deck was 2.6. This is a 3-cost elixir. You can see it still has the Ice Spirit. It still has the Ice Golem. I love the cannon in this deck. The only spell in this deck is the Zap spell. I'm going to talk about why I like every single card in this deck and why I think the overall deck has great synergy together. You have Graveyard Stoppers and the Archer, Zap, and Ice Golem. You have a beautiful, beautiful offensive combinations with the Elite Barbarians and the HOG, comboed with Ice Golem, Ice Spirit. And as we take a look through my battle log here, you're going to see a lot of victories, only 1 or 2 losses I've had so far with this deck, and I played about 20 to 30 matches with it, so definitely going very, very well to say the least. And unlike yesterday's episode where it was the beginning of the season, most of these have been against level 12s like me or level 13s. So we're going to play the loss as well. We'll talk about where I went wrong with this deck. I really try to bring you my losses as well as my successes, and I really want to talk about why I like this deck as opposed to different variations of the Elite Barbarian HOG deck. There's actually a lot of Elite Barbarian HOG decks out there in the meta right now, and you know, there's subtle differences. Some of them have the Tombstone, some of them have Inferno Tower for the defensive unit. I go with Cannon, and some of the decks also have a variation of the deck with Fireball as this spell, and some of them have Fireball or Lightning or Zap. And me personally, I actually really just like having Zap instead of playing Fireball. This first replay here is going to be against a Royal Giant deck, a really annoying Royal Giant deck with the Bowler, and the Bowler is actually very good to counter the Hog Rider and Elite Barbarians, so it's worth noting how I go ahead and combat it with this deck here. So this is going to be the first replay. As we watch this replay, I'm going to kind of go ahead and discuss specifically how to counter the Royal Giant, but I also want to get into how to actually play the deck with success. Now, going against Royal Giant decks right now is honestly super easy, especially with this deck here. You have so many counters, and you have 2 resets for the Royal Giant. So your first counter against the Royal Giant, if you have this deck, should be just placing the cannon at the exact moment so that it's going to be, the Royal Giant that is going to be in range of your tower, and at the same time, it's going to lock onto your cannon. So you'll have the cannon and the tower hitting the Royal Giant will just be hitting your cannon. But check this out. If you're a little bit late with the cannon, I wasn't there late, I thought I was, but if you're late with the cannon, you can just use your Ice Spirit or your Zap to retarget that Royal Giant onto the cannon. So that's why you have 2 resets in this deck, in the Zap and the Ice Spirit. It's really handy to have. You know, you don't often have to worry about resetting Inferno Towers, but especially for ladder play, resetting the Royal Giant is a very valuable tool, and you can use the Mega Minion as well. So you have a lot of answers to the Royal Giant. You have the Mega Minion, you can use the cannon, you can use the Zap and the Ice Spirit to retarget it, and of course you can use the Elite Barbarians, which are probably your best counter to any tank, whether it be a Royal Giant, a Golem. In my mind, the 2 best ways that you can play the Elite Barbarian, look at this, I'm going to reset Royal Giant just like I was talking about. Now he's targeting my cannon here. I come away from that exchange with only a few hundred damage off my tower. Not bad considering that big stack of troops behind that Royal Giant there. So at this point in the match, I'm just defending, but back to the point. The 2 best ways that you should be using your Elite Barbarians in your deck is on the counter push, so you defend against especially a Royal Giant. When you see a Royal Giant as an Elite Barbarian user, you should be very happy, because oftentimes the Royal Giant is played at the bridge, at the river, and then the opponent is left with only 4 elixir afterwards. So there's no way they can have more elixir than 4 to back up the Royal Giant if they play them at the bridge, and when you play those Elite Barbarians, they're going to tear through that Royal Giant so fast that the opponent is not going to have a heck of a lot of elixir left to defend. So oftentimes it's a very risky play to play the Royal Giant right at the bridge now with so many people playing Elite Barbarians. So the other best way to use Elite Barbarians is simply waiting for your opponent to overcommit on an offensive push and then hitting the other lane with your Elite Barbarians right at the bridge. So those are the two ways that you want to use the Elite Barbarians in this deck, and really truly any deck. I mean, there are other circumstances where you can split them and you can use them defensively in a pinch, obviously, but those in general are my favorite two ways to really get a lot of value out of your Elite Barbarians. Now, let's talk about the deck overall, not just the Elite Barbarians and not just how to counter a Royal Giant. So what I'm trying to do with this deck, first of all, you saw in this match here, I'm being pretty aggressive on my opening move, and that's not something I usually advocate for, but with this deck, I actually don't mind it. Now remember, guys, the average elixir cost of this deck is only 3 elixir. It's a cheap deck, so you can actually recover very easily from a Hog Rider play right off the bat if it's in your opening hand. Sometimes I'll even be aggressive and play the Hog Rider and the Ice Spirit right off the bat and see what my opponent has. Not often am I going to get more than 1 or 2 swings from my Hog Rider onto the tower, sometimes even none, but because the deck is so cheap, I'll always have enough elixir left to defend. Now, I should note I'm never backing up my Hog Rider, and I'm very, very rarely comboing it with a Zap spell. I don't want to be super aggressive. I don't want to be irresponsibly aggressive out the gate, because then I can fall susceptible to my opponent playing something like Elite Barbarians in the opposite lane and really punish me. But I will play the Hog Rider by himself, or sometimes even with the Ice Spirit, and usually I'll have at least 8 elixir left to defend by the time they counter my Hog Rider. So, and then obviously I gain the knowledge of what their counter for my Hog Rider is. So I am pretty aggressive with the Hog Rider, but because you have 2 extremely fast win conditions, the Elite Barbarians and the Hog Rider, you can just wait for your opponent to either overcommit on offense or even on defense, or you can wait to see what their counter is to your Hog Rider. Like in this example here, it's the Inferno Tower. So whenever my opponent plays in the Inferno Tower, especially if they play in the wrong area, I'll just punish them with the Elite Barbarians. And now I made a big mistake here, and I gave the sad face there. I made a big mistake with that cannon, but look at this. He has very few elixir left. I play the Hog Rider with the Elite Barbarians, Hog Rider on his side of the arena, Elite Barbarians on the bridge, and there's just no way to stop that, even with the Fireball. I mean, once you have one tower down, you can really lay down some super lethal combinations on your opponent. At this point, I'm just going to give him my left tower, and I'll go for the 3 crown here. I'm going to drop the Elite Barbarians and the Hog Rider onto his King Tower and pull off the 3 crown. And it just, you know, this deck, a lot of it just plays itself. You have to make smart judgment calls with this deck, but, you know, just be ready to punish your opponent when they overcommit. Again, both offensively and defensively. Defensively, you have some great defensive options in this deck. You have the cannon, which is going to be your main distraction unit. You're going to want to play it, obviously, in the middle of the arena, not just like I did over there way off to the left. So be safe with the cannon play, but then you can combo that cannon with the Ice Spirit if you need to freeze the Hog Rider or the Elite Barbarians coming your way, or you can use the Ice Golem if you need to go ahead and soak up some of that attention off swarm units such as minions or minion hordes. It buys you a lot of time. You have the Mega Minion, still the meta minion, as OJ says, still definitely one of the best defensive cards in the game. And by the way, guys, this is my loss here, and this is my first mistake. You can see I actually start out very well by getting a lot of damage done to that right tower, getting my Elite Barbarians to that tower, but then I was so late on that Ice Golem play, I don't know what I was thinking there. I actually make a lot of stupid mistakes in this match, and I guess it just comes down to me, you know, making a cumulative amount of stupid mistakes. I mean, doesn't that what every loss comes down to, actually? But this princess is really a thorn in my side here. I know my opponent has the Hog Rider, so I play a preemptive cannon, because if you look at my hand, I had to wait 5 elixir to get those Elite Barbarians up, but I didn't want that princess taking too much HP off my left tower. But in retrospect, I think I should have saved the cannon for the Hog cycle, and then I should have gone ahead and just used the Elite Barbarians on the princess. Now the Hog Rider really has, I have no counter, you can see here, for that Hog Rider, and I'm starting to get punished for my misguided decisions, especially with that cannon play up towards the river there. And then from there, it really just goes, I kind of pick up things a little bit towards the end here, but it was just too little too late. I try to sneak in a Hog combo in the right lane here, and he goes ahead and plays the Barbarians too late. I actually take take his right tower before he ends up taking both of my towers. So I want to talk, while we watch the rest of this miserable match, I do want to talk a little bit about the offensive theory behind the deck, aside from just going ahead and punishing your opponent, as I mentioned earlier. So what you want to do with this deck is, the beauty of having the Ice Golem and the Ice Spirit is that's two amazing combination cards to use with the Elite Barbarians and the Hog Rider. Rarely, maybe to open a match or to punish the opponent with the Hog Rider and the Elite Barbarians, rarely I will use them by themselves, but more often than not, I love to play the Elite Barbarians with the Ice Spirit behind them, or the Hog Rider with the Ice Golem in front of him. Obviously, you can take down Skarmy that way. With the Ice Spirit behind the Elite Barbarians, the only trouble you'll run into is the Hog. Other than that, and that was a very unfortunate play if you just saw on the screen right there, I played my Hog Rider just an instant before I saw his Hog Rider down, took down my left tower, and that's really where things start to go really downhill there in this match here. So he has the rocket. I'm going to be in trouble here, unfortunately. So I do fall victim to this match. You're not going to win every match with any deck, but I just wanted to share this replay to show, you know, some of the areas that I went wrong, and maybe you guys can avoid making the same mistakes. It was really, honestly, this match was just me making a bunch of poor little decisions. It's not like I made any huge mistake, other than maybe that Hog Rider and then not checking the Musketeers quickly enough with my Ice Golem to distract her. So offensively, right? So I love the Elite Barbarians play at the river, and then immediately afterwards playing the Ice Spirit. The Ice Spirit does a great job in really freezing whatever they're going to counter your Elite Barbarians with. The Ice Spirit is going to freeze them long enough for your Elite Barbarians each to get 1 or 2 swings in, and that's going to take off like 500 damage off their tower. So you can see this next match here. Again, I open aggressively with the Hog Rider. Oh, and guys, pay attention right here. Look at my elixir and look at my opponent's elixir. Now, I use the aggressive Hog Rider play to start things out there, but look at this. I'm able to defend against this push because I have plenty of elixir to do so. I use the cannon to distract the bowler. I use the Mega Minion and the Zap to take care of the bowler and the archers and the Fire Spirits incoming, and I'm able to walk away very nicely out of that first play, or the first minute of this match. Really, I got to figure out what my opponent has in their hands. I also got a decent amount of damage off their tower, and I was able to protect my tower at the same time. So I really liked the opening exchanges of this match. So I did want to talk briefly, before I let you guys go and enjoy this deck, hopefully, I wanted to talk briefly about why I prefer the cannon in this deck as to the Inferno Tower, or a Tombstone, or a Tesla, or whatever else you're going to play, and why I prefer the Zap spell instead of a Fireball or a Lightning. So the Zap spell over a Lightning is obvious, and by the way, guys, this is what I'm talking about. If the opponent plays a lot of elixir in one lane, you can see I played my Elite Barbarians immediately in the left lane, taking a lot of damage off of that left tower. And I really want to point out something right here, guys. I could have used that Zap spell that I have in my hand right now with the Elite Barbarians on my counter push there, but I saved it, and that is actually going to be super valuable for me here. If I didn't have that Zap spell, I would have lost my right tower, but I had that 2 extra elixir. It was able to use it defensively, and now you can see I took some damage to my right tower, but I'm still in the lead overall in this match. So the moral of that story is, be patient on your offensive surges, guys. You don't always have to throw everything in the kitchen sink at your opponent. You can just play the Elite Barbarians all by themselves as a counter push. You don't have to unload all your elixir. You have to, you know, be smart about when you choose to use as much elixir as you choose to use. Does that make any sense? Probably not. Whatever, Ash. So I split the Elite Barbarians. This is actually the first time I think I've split the Elite Barbarians in this whole video. I don't love splitting the Elite Barbarians, but I didn't have a play and I was full on elixir, so I decided to do it and make my opponent choose where to defend, where to push. So I give him my right tower there, and again, I'm able to defend really well against a lot of elixir coming at me in the left lane. So the reason I like the Zap spell in this deck is because the best counter to Elite Barbarians really is the swarm units. Not only can I defend against Graveyard well with the Zap spell, or I can retarget Royal Giants, as I talked about earlier, or even Inferno Towers, reset Inferno Towers, but also with the Zap spell, you can use it to take out a Skarmy that someone placed in front of your Elite Barbarians. You can can use it instantly. The instant effect of Zap Spell really appeals to me, given the speed of the Elite Barbarians. So does that make sense? Elite Barbarians are moving so fast that oftentimes, even if I cast a Fireball at my opponent, it's not going to reach there until my Elite Barbarians have already either done their damage or they've already died, unless you're playing a predictive Fireball. So I actually prefer Zap, and the cannon, I like the damage it does as opposed to the Tombstone at the risk of not spawning those skeletons. So this is the deck, guys. I hope you enjoy it. There's no legendary cards, there's no epic cards. A lot of you guys will be able to use this, hopefully very successfully. This is my favorite deck of the meta. I'm going to be sticking with this one for quite a while, guys. Go ahead and tweet me or drop a comment and let me know how it works for you guys. If you have any questions about substitutions or anything like that, go ahead and hit me a comment. I'm trying to lately respond to every comment that you guys leave in the first hour, so hit me up in the first hour or catch my videos in the first hour if you can, and I'll try to respond to every comment you guys leave. So guys, thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and as always, take care, guys.